Well, the now fired University of Cincinnati police officer out of jail after posting bail. Ray Tensing's release comes less than 8 hours after he pleaded not guilty to murder and voluntary manslaughter. He was fired soon after his indictment, but there's word now he's trying to get his job back. 25-year-old Tensing, who is white, fatally shot Samuel DuBose, who is black, during a routine traffic stop. The shooting and release of Tensing's body cam video sparking outrage.
I'm asking you a direct question. Do you have your license on?
I thought I did. I understand. What did you pull me over for?
Again, the front tag.
But it's not illegal to have a front tag.
Okay. Actually, it is. I'm going to ask you again. Do you have a license on you?
I have a license. You can run my name.
Okay. Is that not on you then?
I don't think I have it on me.
Be straight up with me. Are you suspended?
No, I'm not suspended.
Why don't you have your license on you?
I just don't. I'm sorry, sir. I'm just gonna go in the house.
Okay. Where do you stay at? Down here?
Right around the corner.
Okay. Well, until I can figure out if you have a license or not, go ahead and take your seatbelt off for me.
I didn't even do that.
Go ahead and take your seatbelt off. Stop!
Let's bring in Anna Young, defense attorney, and former prosecutor, and Richard Roth, defense attorney. All right, so there we have that video again. I know that both of you have seen it as well. Now the defense attorney for that police officer is saying that he's been railroaded, so to speak, because the prosecutor in this case in Hamilton County in Cincinnati has gone on the record and done TV interviews and press conferences basically laying out this case about why he thinks that that officer is guilty of murder. Richard, let me start with you. Do you believe that the prosecutor went overboard in the way in which he presented this case?
I think he did. I'm not saying that I'm condoning what happened. What happened was absolutely a travesty, but the prosecutor has to continue his role. He has to maintain a certain presence when he's talking to the people, when he's talking to the press. And he really went overboard, and some of the things he said I think he probably regrets. It is a pretty nasty video, and what happened here is just unbelievable. But the prosecutor still has to maintain a certain presence, a certain air about him, which I think he didn't do.
Okay, Anna, if you were defending this police officer, what would be your defense? Because apparently his story to the officers before this video came out was that he was being dragged by the car and that he feared for his life, potentially. But now the video seems to discount most of that.
Right, absolutely, Gretchen. I was thinking the same thing. I'm very interested to see what the defense is going to be in this case, because my understanding is that, yes, he's claiming self-defense. But if you look at the video, and even if you give him the benefit of the doubt and you slow down that video, you don't see the vehicle accelerating. You see it slowly moving away. And then the problem with asserting self-defense in this type of case is that he must reasonably believe that he's suffering some sort of imminent danger of bodily harm or death. Belief in future harm is not sufficient for purposes of self-defense. So I think the defense is really going to have to retain their experts to really study that video and scrutinize it to see if there's any viable claim to support that imminent danger of bodily death or death or bodily injury.
You know, the interesting thing about this case, Richard, is that this officer's technically he's not a Cincinnati police officer. He's a University of Cincinnati police officer. And I'm wondering if there's different training involved. And not that that's any excuse one way or another. But does that factor at all into this case? Oh,
you're 100% right. It is not an excuse, but it doesn't factor into the case. But the question is, why is a University of Cincinnati police officer essentially on the streets? It's outside of the campus, patrolling the streets. They don't have the training the police officers have. And quite frankly, I don't know what training this guy had, but it doesn't matter. What he did, I guess, is told through the eyes of that video. And you know, everyone's fighting to get these cameras. This is the reason why. It's always a he said, she said. When you have a camera, you know, the picture's worth 1,000 words.
Yep.
We can see what happened here. And what he did here is, it doesn't look to me like self-defense. He didn't say the guy was going to grab a gun. The guy started his car, and all of a sudden he pulls a gun out and shoots him.
I guess, Anna, the only way in which his defense attorney will be able to claim self-defense, at least from this video thus far, is that it could have looked like he was reaching for a gun in the car?
You know,
you could possibly argue that. You could possibly argue that, Gretchen, but I don't see that in that video, and that's why it's going to be so interesting to see how the defense is going to creatively be able to fashion their defense here, because that video, I mean, Richard's right. A picture is worth 1,000 words. A video is worth 1,000 words.
Yep.
And if you don't have the victim's testimony to say what happened, and if you look at the other officers who are arguably covering up for this officer, you could make that argument. Well, then what do you have to rely upon? That video? And I certainly don't see him reaching for that gun.
And add to that the fact that he argues he was dragged. This guy was not dragged. I mean, he was not dragged at all. He was following the car.
And that's why the prosecutor said that they didn't release the video until he had also been questioned by the police many times, because he was talking. And the story didn't add up in the prosecutor's mind. Anna and Richard, thank you very much for your commentary on a complicated case.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gretchen.
So that brings us to our question of